Welcome to another episode of Complete Developer Podcast, the podcast by coders for coders about all aspects of creating your best life as a developer.
I'm Will, the accomplished developer and aspiring software architect.
And I'm Beej, the journeyman developer, sharing my journey in development.
Complete Developer Podcast is supported by listeners like you. We are now on Patreon at www.patreon.com/Complete Developer Podcast.
Vets Who Code is a reintegration solution for veterans that believe in the principle of to teach a man to fish to better prepare early stage transitioning veterans for returning to the workforce. Many veterans are not homeless, but are or underemployed. Some have a deep desire to be independent business owners. Their skill sets are desperately needed to enhance local economies and drive innovation. Vets Who Code serves as a launch pad for our veterans and military spouses. We've brought on Jerome Hardaway, founder of Vets Who Code, and Jacob Oakley, a successful graduate of the program, to talk to us about how they are helping the men and women who served in the U.S. military. But before we get started, Will, what have you been fighting this week?
Well, last week I spoke in Vegas at MicroConf, and that was good. You get a little tired of Vegas after more than a couple days, and I was there for 5. So that was fun. The other thing I've been doing is I have been working like a dog on the book. I have 1 chapter left. It's up to 225 pages total now. I think February 4th, it was less than 50 pages, just to give an idea. We're recording on April 4th. So that's a fairly insane amount of content. And other than that, man, that's all I've been doing. Like I just write.
So Jerome, how about you?
Oh man, this week what I have been quote unquote fighting, everything's been kind of smooth. Like finalized. I started using Fastly at work, and I was like, oh, I like this. So let me see what I can do. I reached out to them, and then I was able to sign them on to help us with products for the nonprofit. So they are coming on board as like a tech sponsorship for CDNs for images for us, which is going to be really fun because the upcoming cohort, they have a capstone project, which is going to require a lot of images. So like that's super cool. That's going to happen. And that's pretty much it. Work out and like doing leadership things with like choosing out like what to have in our stack and what not to. So really boring executive stuff. Like
That's really cool though. That's awesome about the Fastly. That's neat. Jacob, how about you?
Oh, for me, it's been banging my head against the wall with some legacy code that has been written and kind of Frankenstein pieced together. So I'm trying to figure out where everything leads to get information from databases and APIs and stuff like that. And it's just tracing one thing to another. And it's a long list, and it's interesting. It's fun. Keeps me busy all day at least. So
how legacy is it? Just out of curiosity.
They're using Angular 1.5.
Okay.
So not too bad.
No, anything past Angular 1.8x is a nightmare. I feel sorry for you. Like the gray hairs that you have, like pause. I know it's not too bad. Stop trying to be positive. Like if it's not Angular 1.8x or like 1.8 or more, it is like your alcohol intake is probably like doubled. Like that's just what Angular like does. Like old versions of Angular are like made for people who don't like themselves. It's right up there with it's right up there with Ember. Like it's right up there with Ember 1.
Yes.
Angular 1, Ember 1, they are both like
it's that one. That's the problem.
Yeah. So anything past Angular 1.8, anything past Ember 2.4, like all those are just made for people who like they need a professional to talk to. Like if you're still working in that, you don't like yourself as a person. Like
I've been cleaning up jQuery. Oh, sorry.
jQuery.
1.11 from 2008.
Oh, disregard last. I was gonna say we crap on jQuery, but we said that I was like, oh, sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
So
actually, that's one of those things where you even say sorry for your win.
So it's funny that you guys are making fun of Angular 1.5 because we had a final countdown meeting at work this past week on a project that I've been working on for the past 2 years. That the front end is written in Angular 1.5. So that was interesting. We're replacing and updating an older system, so it's been fun finding out all the odd little things that the old system did that were never listed as requirements. And this is like an old. I don't even know what the code was written in, but it's ancient. We're talking like 20-year-old system here that we're replacing with a online version. So it's really interesting. Now this episode that we're recording is going to come out the week before Easter. And I'm actually going down to Florida to visit my sister for Easter. Looking forward to it, though I do need to get some new swim trunks. Mine don't fit anymore because I've lost so much weight. I am very excited.
It's good. Nice.
Yep. That and I'm just cramming for my final. Hey, Will, do you remember Writer's Night at Lipscomb?
Yeah.
So I found the soundtrack that they made for that a couple of years.
I'm so
before
sorry.
we were there. Oh yeah. Oh, hey, it's great. It has DJ Porter's My Pathetic Life. Classic Lipscomb Writer's Night stuff.
I think I only went to like one of those, and then I was like, I'm going to the bar.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't have any musical talent, but I used to read and write poetry. And a friend of ours would play the guitar in the background. It's sort of some spoken word stuff. Well, the creatives group that I'm in at church has us working on these projects. And so I teamed up with a friend of mine who's like this really good guitar player. And I'm writing this like epic poem. And he's writing like this really awesome music to go in the background. And we're going to perform this. So it's kind of interesting and fun. But speaking of poetry, I've got something a bit different for IoTs. So this is not your typical IoTs. This is actually a book of poetry titled The Internet of Things by Kate Camp. It starts in John Lennon's kitchen as a kid and ends up on a ship. It contains a collection of stories that are woven into the things that we keep around us. And it shows how we travel from our past into our future through the things in our lives. IoT is about connecting devices and things together via the internet. This book of poetry is about how we connect things through our lives. It talks about healing and navigating tricky times in life. And while not exactly technology, it's worth a look. I actually ended up buying this book after finding it and looked through it last night. It's really cool. Who's talking to us this week?
Well, we got an email from Vishen saying, "Hey, Will and BJ, my name is Vishen and I am from South Africa. I'm currently studying towards my computer science degree, and my lecturer has asked us to reach out to people we admire in the industry and ask a simple question as a means of putting ourselves out there. I admire what you two have done in creating this podcast and valuable resource for your fellow developers. And my question is, Will and BJ, what are your favorite books right now? I completely understand if you guys don't get a chance to get to this, but I would really appreciate a response if you do. Thank you for your time. Regards, Vishen." So as far as favorite books right now, I'm actually not consuming any media at the moment. I'm just creating. I'm not.
Well, what would you recommend for someone?
I would say if you're getting a degree in computer science, I would probably read "Don't Make Me Think." It talks about user interface design and those kind of things. Like, don't put the users in a position where they have to think to use your app. That was one of the first books I was given right out of college, and that helped me a ton because I'd been building stuff for programmers, and you don't want to do that for the general population.
For me, it's hard to say without knowing the specific language or what you're learning. Generally speaking, I would recommend The Pragmatic Programmer. It's one of my favorite books.
Yeah.
I like how it's written. It's written in such a way that you don't have to read cover to cover, but you can pick and choose the chapters based on what you need at the time. And of course, Will's not going to say it, but I'd recommend his book once it gets published because it's awesome. But
it doesn't feel that way right now.
yeah, that makes sense. But Jerome, Jacob, do either of you have any suggestions for Vishen?
I have like a million. You have any, like Jacob? Like before I say anything, like Jacob's in a Slack channel with me, so he knows I'm an avid reader, and like I am always. It's not articles, it's book recommendations and stuff like that. So,
well, for me, I don't have any books, but I like going to Smashing Magazine because when I first started, I had a lot of design issues. And so I found the articles on there really helpful on being able to get better at my design. So I was able to read little quick articles on there to figure out relations between colors and how they affect users and stuff like that. And looking into like contrast ratio with your colors for accessibility issues. They have tons of articles on there and can help you a lot.
Pause X. For context of that, why that matters is like Jacob is, while he gives back to Vetsu Code, is he's on a part of our code pen team, which is one of like outside of our product team, it's our most forward facing team because what they do is that they make the code pens that get shipped out for the world to see like the skill set that our veterans are making, right? Jacob was the worst front end developer, like at one point in time in our like cohort. He programmed and designed like he was in the army still. Like it was like army bare bones barracks. Like when he would give me things, I was like, "What is this nightmare? Would you use this?" I never forget the 101. Like that changed like his career trajectory. Like he gave me a site. And it was the worst site I had saw in like the first, like at least 6 months of that year. And I was like, "Yo, what are you doing?" You have a week to fix this or I am about to kick you out this channel. Like I am not playing. He came back with something like 10 times better. I was like, "See, I knew you could do it. Why did you give me that stinking heap of garbage? Like, what is wrong with you?" And it was like the funniest thing. He's like, when it comes to now to UI, design psychology, color theory, and stuff like that, he's now one of our strongest. Every time he gets like a win, I just sit there and I'm like in awe. So I'm like, I can't believe like a year ago he was like I don't know what happened. Like just that's why Vested Code is so like important to people because sometimes you need somebody from like who knows. Hey, yo, I know where you're dialing it in. Like, yo, like get your stuff together. I don't know what's going on with you. So like that's why that like recommendation, like him talking to him, like yo, like Smashing Magazine is legit. Like yo, man, it's 180 with him.
That's really awesome.
I'll tell you what happened. I learned about open source.
Yeah. I was going to say, because I'll go there to go, oh, hey, here's a framework I can use so nobody realizes I'm awful.
Exactly.
Yes. I was going to say, way to turn that weakness into a strength, though. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, but now, like, even without frameworks, he's still dope. And he's cool with, like, frameworks that I don't even touch. Like, he does a lot of 3JS stuff. And I'm look, I am not even trying to get on this level of doing like why does it have the word camera in it? Hard pass. Not doing it. Don't have time to learn that. I barely have no time to catch up on my shows on Netflix. Not gonna interrupt that for this. So the books I have so many books. First book, Discipline Equals Freedom. I think everybody should read that book because like it's some Jocko Willink, Navy SEAL commander during the Iraq War. That's still like kind of going on. He shows just like, for anything you want, you have to have discipline to get that goal. From working out to building apps, everything you have to learning a new skill. You have to do that. Rework, another favorite by DHH. Shows how thinking and changing, like, looking at concepts like how they built one of the best primarily remote companies in the industry. And, that I love that book. The web app, The Muse, they have a book called The New Rules of Work. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I absolutely love that book as well. and Deep Work by Cal Newport. I just finished that book up. Like I said, I am a real big reader because I feel like the more I read, the easier it is for me to transfer to the troops who may not like reading. So like I can give them those little nuggets and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, all right, that works." And I'm like, "Yes, you have to consistently read to like, have different tools in your tool belt to be able to help people from different walks of life, right?" So,
Oh yeah, I completely agree with you. Will and I are both big bibliophiles. We read a lot, and of course, I haven't been. He's been working on writing his book, so he hasn't been reading much lately. I've been mostly reading textbooks because I'm in grad school now. So yeah, but those are. I wrote down everything that you said, so I've got a list of things to go through.
I have a million. I'm like, I read at a voracious rate.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So, Vishen, send us another message with your contact information because we've got a Complete Developer water bottle just for you. Guys, if you'd like your very own Complete Developer water bottle, leave us a review on iTunes or comment on the website or any of our social media. We post all of our episodes to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and I really need to remove Google Plus from that list because it's not around anymore. We're also on Instagram and Tumblr. You can check us out each week on Facebook and YouTube Live. We talk about what's going on in the tech world and answer a couple of listener questions. Or join the conversation anytime via Slack by going to slack.completedevelopernetwork.com.
Launched in 2014, Vets Who Code is a nonprofit dedicated to filling the nation's technical skills gap with America's best. They achieve this by using technology to connect and train veterans remotely in web development in order to close the digital talent gap and ease career transition for military veterans and to give military spouses skills to provide stability as they move to support their families. They believe that those who serve in uniform can be the digital economy's most productive and innovative. Vets Who Code prepares them to enter the civilian workforce with tangible skills for new careers.
As a United States Air Force veteran, Jerome wanted to create a solution to veteran underemployment and homelessness in the U.S. He has a deep knowledge on the current state of veteran affairs and created a curriculum designed to help veterans easily transition into the working world. Along with Jerome, we have Jacob Oakley. Jacob is an Army veteran who is now a mid-level web developer after going through Vets Who Code. The first question that we ask, and this is the question I ask all of our guests that come on, is what got you interested in coding? So Jerome, we'll start with you. Like, why software development? What interested you in this?
I think because it was skill-based, that was the primary motivation. I didn't want to go to school for 4 years just to be qualified at entry level at something. And, I coming from the military, we have on-the-job training, and the style of education in the military is more, when it comes to learning your skill set, is more like technical on hands. And for me, software engineering was very much like that. It was also, I came out the military with a security forces background in the apex of the recession. So all the skills I had weren't considered strong skills in that type of working climate. So I needed to piggyback. I needed to learn something else and level up, and software engineering was it.
Jacob, how about you? What got you first interested in coding and made you decide to go through the program?
Well, I think what got me interested was I love to learn and I love to solve problems. And you have plenty of opportunities for both of those when it comes to coding and programming.
What did you guys do in the Air Force and the Army? Was it tech related at all?
For me, no, not at all. I did. My primary tools every day was an M4A1 and a M9 millimeter handgun. So that, those are not. Those aren't computers. Very low tech. They don't even run on electricity. So that was it. I think the most technical my job got was I have a radio, and I might have a vehicle once in a while. So other than that, nah.
So my MOS is 42 Alpha, which is Human Resources Specialist. So I get to play with computers and be on them, not really doing a whole lot of coding or technical stuff with them. But I figured that'd be a good one to be in because computers don't like heat and they don't like cold. So no matter where I went, I'd probably be in air conditioning or heating. So that was my choice and my thought process there for that one.
So Jerome, tell us about when you first got out of the Air Force. How did you learn to code?
I learned how to program initially, same way everybody else does, books and going online, finding answers here and there. I joke with the newer troops that I tell them I'm the last generation of like when the web was still like a no man's land and learning how to code. Like now you guys have everybody trying to help you learn how to code, and these developer roadmaps and all these cool, nice, clean, pretty resources. I was like, no, when I was starting how to code right before, Slack was created, and there was like, you had to figure out what the IRC was. And I was like, I had no idea what the IRC was like for 2 years. And, so that was my path. And I was learning how to, SQL and learning how to use, manipulate data and pull data from databases. And that was like my first job was, hey, let me, pull this information from these databases in the TWIC card program in Department of Homeland Security. So I think that was it. And then I moved on to a nonprofit, learning how to do web. I was supposed to be marketing assistant because that's where my degree is in. When I was in the military, I degreed it like in marketing. But because when you're at a nonprofit and everybody's 80, the first thing they say when they have somebody that's like 25, it's like, hey, you're young, you can figure this stuff out, fix this. And the thing that had me fix was the website that was looking like something. If you go online right now and go to the BoJack Horseman's website, it looks like something out of the 90s, or a Captain Marvel's website. Both of those look like something out of the 90s. And that is how their website looked. Like, it's like GeoCities on drugs. Like, this is not a good thing. This is why your online donation process is shot. So they gave me they're like, hey, fix this. And so basically I spent my probationary period, the entire 3 months, heads down, learning PHP and working in the most awful CMS ever.
So how is WordPress these days?
It wasn't WordPress. I'm not shooting shots at Automatic, but WordPress is crappy. If you when you see the new stuff that's out there with MERN-Stack and Jamstack. Yeah. But so I learned enough. And, PHP was kind of still no man's scripting languages have never really gotten the respect. They're the more verbose, strongly typed languages, right? So the Javas out there, the .NET people out there, they've always they never, that respect never really translated to PHPers. So, when you went in PHP and you were learning that stuff on your own without a mentor and stuff, the code is like something out of the Wild Wild West. So I think about that code that I wrote and I shudder. I'm a little sad and embarrassed by it. I'm thankful that I didn't know what GitHub was at the time, because if that was on my GitHub, I was like, no one would ever hire me if that was on my GitHub. So fast forward, 2014, there was an Army veteran had fallen. One of the issues that he was really facing was transition and retraining. And I had used all the skills I had learned about web development to set up a website, all the skills I learned 7 years ago in college to, do marketing and reach out and stuff. And they ended up raising $10,000 for his family in 27 hours. Moving forward with that, people were like, you ever do something good or do something big? And then you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm done now, right? That was me. Oh, okay, I'm going to go back to my life. And, I'm 28 now at this time. I'm like, let me start chasing girls and stuff. And they were like, no, you can't do that. What else are you going to do? I was like, I'm not Houdini. You want me to pull a rabbit out of my hat? I don't know how to do that. So I was like, what else am I going to do? What gave me what gave me a second chance in life? What helped me, see the light at the end of the tunnel? And it was learning a skill that was, applicable, that I had the control over. I don't know, most veterans, they like structure and they're control freaks. Not in a negative way. It's they want, especially in the military, with EP, the biggest, most attractive thing about getting out the military is that you're no longer in this area or this component of where, someone else controls when you get promoted and things of that nature. You're I'm the master of my destiny. If I'm ready to get promoted and this person doesn't agree with me, I just go and apply for another job, or the person who is going to give me more money and stuff like that, or give me more responsibility, stuff like that. So like that is where like that's what I like with, I tell people all the time, I look at the analogy with software engineering and like, Jacob's heard me many a times. I look at it just like boxing or combat sports in general, where you get, when you're in the gym, you get in what you get out. That's just the name of the game. Like you have to, I tell them all the time that this is the place you make mistakes. This is the place you do your screw ups, because when you're in the ring, you want to be as polished as possible, but you can't be polished if you're here. So like, it was like, that's how I looked at web development my entire time of learning myself. It was a skill that the more I did, the better, more I got out of it. And the more dedicated I was, the more structured I was, the more I focused on doing the right work, the better I became. So that's what like I wanted to help other veterans get, because like, I can't be the only veteran that wants to learn how to program or wants to learn how wants to get in programming. And I was right, ironically, like even finding people who had like programming experience, like, Z.A. Shaw, learn code the hard way, learn Python the hard way.
I love that stuff.
He's a veteran. No one knows.
I did not know
that. Exactly. Like he's Army. He was a logistics troop. He served. He went to Korea like for a stint. Like he's not that old. Not like the Korean War. Like
right.
Like so. Yeah. Like he's not. No, he's not 90. My goodness. But yeah. So it was really cool when I connected with him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's like you're we're kindred spirits. Like yeah, this is dope, awesome." And he ended up coming on, joining our board, and helping us with our infrastructure and stuff on our first steps. But like that's what that's what made the passion of having Vets Who Code. And even from every step, like Vets Who Code is closer and closer to like going back to one of the books I recommended, Rework. We operated looking at how tech like that company works and looking at like certain systems. Like, and I think that's what the advantage of Vets Who Code, like even, because we're a nonprofit and we kind of govern ourselves, because we're not like NGO versus we're an NPO versus NGO. We don't move at the speed of government, which means we would never move. So like one thing that we do that even for-profit organizations will do is that we are constantly updating our curriculum, and we are updating our curriculum based upon what we see out in the industry that works now versus what we want. Like, if I wanted to, what I want to teach is Ruby. I love Ruby. I think Ruby's a great language to learn. Python as well. Those are great languages to learn in these first programming language. But my job is to make them productive. So I'm able to, and productive and employable as well. That's how I look at it. It's not just teaching how to program. It's make it productive and employable. So I chose JavaScript because, hey, this is the biggest language out there right now. This is one that people are most willing to take chances on with newer engineers. This is the one that if we can focus and go front to back with IoT and everything and stay in one language and focus more on core concepts without jumping from language to language. Because, when you're new, context switching is hard even when you're a full stack developer, going from the back end writing Java to the front end writing, CSS and Sass and stuff. So just imagine the context switching that people go through when they're learning 3 or 4 languages in school. Like, I never understood how can a boot camp teach .NET and front end development in the same time? Like I've been in the game 6-7 years, and I see like a .NET app, I'm like, no, like I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to touch C# or C at all. I'm just going to go over here and drink some coffee. You guys call me back when you're done. So like, that's the thing. Like even now, like our curriculum when Jacob was going through is totally different than the curriculum that we teach now. Like, the first week we are making the kids, well, I say kids, but most of them are older than me, troops. We're making the troops, they go through Git Flow. They're learning BIM. So they're learning more modular style CSS, practices. We took away learning frameworks like CSS frameworks at all. So everything like with responsive web, they have to focus on learning layout. So we teach in the concept of grid. You start out with grid, then you add flex, and then once you have pushed the limits of grid and flex, then you add media queries. And then we're also doing semantic markup. We'll focus on web accessibility and SEL right out the gate. So we're teaching them things like, hey, well, you turn that max scale from 1 to 5. That's like 4 points on Google Lighthouse right there. This is like week 1, week 2. Or we weren't even I wasn't even baking in that. So I was sectorizing each segment. But now what I'm doing is as you build, I'm showing you how to do things on a higher level. And last year was a crazy year for us because of how we were doing that. We had veterans. They were Jacob himself jumped from his first web development job was a mid-level job. That's what people don't when you say he's a mid-level programmer. It's oh no, that's his first job though. We had a troop. His first job was a senior software engineer with Verizon. I'm how are you guys getting senior positions as your first shot out? That makes me feel good, inside. I'm like Kobe or Jordan, or I don't know which one. I don't know enough about sports. I don't know which one I am.
So
go ahead.
I was going to say, so I'm curious now, how does the program work? Is this you're talking about it, is it a classroom style, work at your own pace? How do you have that set up?
It is a classroom/community style. So basically we do things in 3 phases. We go through foundational phase, which is I head all foundational programming now. So the first person you have to deal with is me, and I am dad, as Jacob would tell you. I am the villain. I'm the bad guy. I'm the hard ass of the room. I'm the bully. So I make you do a lot of work. I crack jokes and you laugh and make fun of me. I give you homework. I'm the homework king, right? So phase 1 is getting through me. I'm Shark Week, and instead of waiting I'm Hell Week, and instead of waiting until week 7, week 8, like they do in the military, wait till they get you all nice and trained up for Hell Week. We just, we're going to throw you in first early, and then we're not even going to wait and make it last a week. We're going to make it last 4 or 5 weeks, because, you only live once, right? So I'm going to make it hurt. So that's phase 1. Then phase 2 is computer science, or segment 2, computer science, 2 weeks. There was Phil, who he came through our program, ended up getting a job. One of his job was actually it's weird. It's a new cool thing where it's a job, but they're also allowing him the time and stuff to finish his PhD and stuff and machine learning. Really weird. I have no idea what those are called. I was is that an internship? They're no, it's still a job. I was oh, okay, cool. They're basically paying you to get smarter, and then you're using a GI Bill too to get smarter. Love it. Even though everybody knows that I'm tougher on the kids with CS degrees than I am with the kids who don't come from CS backgrounds.
Good.
Because the kids with CS backgrounds think they know what they're doing, and I'm you have zero idea what you're doing when it comes to a production level app.
I can speak to that too. I have a CS degree, so yeah. And coming out, man, they don't show you professional development stuff. You just run into that. It'd be like somebody that played a video game, suddenly getting into an actual military conflict. They're just, they just run into walls basically.
Yeah, it's like playing Rumble boxing on N64 and then getting a real boxing ring and doing no, you're not gonna do that
with a big angry dude.
Yeah, just because you played UFC 3 does not mean you're ready for the octagon. Yeah. Chill, sit down. I'm gonna need you to drink some water and rethink your life decisions.
Yeah. So what do you teach differently on that? As far as I know you got to get some comp sci stuff in there, but where do you draw the line on that?
I draw the line only on the stuff that regards to design systems, architecture, and what you would be asked on an interview. That's kind of where I draw the line. Understanding architecture, understanding design systems, and things that the Big 5 would ask. So beyond that, I'm everything is more about how to make things work, how to work as a team, how to work as a unit. That's where that's how that line gets drawn. Because I tell people I didn't learn CS until I started seeing it as a gateway for jobs, because for our students, right? So I learned that skill solely to teach that skill to our veterans. And then I found somebody who actually enjoyed it and would love it even more. I was like, hey, you teach that to our veterans because I hate it.
Yeah, you find that one guy that's
you find that one dude that's excited for this. The guy you can have that. I don't want that at all.
That sounds like finding somebody. That's like finding somebody that likes to clean the porta potties, isn't it?
Yes, it's like, this is like.
I don't know about that, but I know that's how I ended up doing all of our audio editing. It's because Will was like, "Oh, you have time and you want to do this. It's all yours." And now I do everything for the post production stuff. So yeah.
Does that sound like a complaint?
Not really. I actually enjoy it.
It's too late now. It's just like that's your role. That's your role.
That's very true. That's very true. So hey, Jacob, I wanted to hear from you and find out what was your experience with the program.
So with the program, we actually started with Ruby on Rails for the first couple of weeks, I think. So that'll tell you how much this program has changed since I've been in. And the second week, I think it was, he set some of us aside and said, hey, listen, what is it that you actually want to learn? And what are you interested in? And I was like, hey, I like the front end. I love the front end. So he grabbed a couple of us and he split us off and he said, y'all said you want the front end. That's what you like. So we're just going to go JavaScript heavy on you. Like, here's this thing called JavaScript. Here's what it does. Here's how it works. He's like, and he starts showing us frameworks and, Bootstrap, Foundation, all that stuff, which I leaned on heavily because of the design skills he mentioned that I had earlier. And it was just great, just because I had that path set out before me and someone to help guide me on that path. Where before, when I was doing it on my own, it's like, oh, there's so many choices out there. It's like, do I want to do Ruby on Rails, PHP, JavaScript? I'm in JavaScript. What framework do I want? There's only about 1 million out there to learn and to do.
And if you don't like them, you get another one next week.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just awesome having people to lean on that's been through it and have seen the world that you could talk to about. Where do you think I should go? What should I do? Okay, there's React and there's Angular. Okay, React's not as popular when I was going through, but it was up and coming when we saw it. And, they were like, well, what do you want to do? Where do you want to be? And then that kind of got me on the React side. And I had people in there that I was able to talk to and guide me through it. And I'd get stuck with just passing state through my, classes and everything. And I had I had people to just pop on and hit up and say, hey, how do I do this? Or is there any resources, or can you show me? And I had people that would jump on, show me how to do it. And it's amazing. I mean, it just opened up a whole another world. So instead of banging my head against the wall for hours trying to figure out something, I could just hop on there, be like, hey, I need help, and had a team of people jumping on, ready to go.
That's really awesome. Now
Roger that. To piggyback on what he said, it was very funny because like one of the reasons why we did that with the whole put on the sides that I was seeing, like there were certain things that I was just saying, like, hey, it's, when I'm talking about this, people's eyes light up. Then I'm talking about this, other people's eyes light up. So it's like, there's no point. And like I said, I'm very big. I'm anti context switching. I'm very big. Like, we were initially doing full stack Rails and trying to do mean stack. And I was like, I don't like teaching people like that. Like I felt like I was being, I was not dictating the pace of what I felt like was more important, because like I believe, like, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this. Like, I believe in teaching and programming, like how I was trained in the military to do my job, and like from the concept of like how my primary tools worked. But like with the whole Ruby on Rails thing, I split them up, and so that way, and people didn't have a context switch. And what I saw was that like I was reading the Blitz, because I was originally a Ruby on Rails developer when I first got out. And I first started like my first real big job. Mm-hmm. And what I was seeing is that as I was looking at other jobs and getting other contracts and opportunities, I was getting asked less from my Ruby on Rails experience and more on React and JavaScript experience, even as a Rails developer. And I was looking at that and I was like, if people are asking me that, that means that the market is A, getting saturated, B, not being very friendly to junior developers. And I was right on both causes. So when I went and I spoke to them, it was good. Like, that's one of the reasons I tell people I stay building production level sites and working, because it gives me the advantage of doing market research that I can pass down to the veterans. Like my job is to be an expert on not just what is the issue with veterans, but issue of getting the job. So I need to you want to learn what's going to help you make money, right? That's where my focus on learning how to code, right? Is okay. You want to provide for your family. That's pretty much what my passion is. It's not, I want to build open source, or I want to build explain. No, I want to make you a newbie, a rookie, a grunt, skilled enough to where you can put food on the table and, live your best life. Because I guess Jocko Willink, he says it best. It's like we do it, when you're in the military, you're doing your best because you have a purpose. When you're out, it's harder because, that whole purpose of being in the world's greatest military and making sure that, you're fighting the battles over there because to make sure the threats don't come home, kind of loses its luster when you're working in a 9 to 5. So it's why do you focus on that when you're here? Well, you focus on that for the people that didn't make it back home, right? So that's my concept. I'm trying to get these guys good jobs, good experiences, so they can ball out because there are people that we serve with that don't have that opportunity. Yeah. Our families, that they wish their husbands and daughters could come back home. So you owe it to the people that couldn't make it to come here and do your best work. Right. Yeah. So that's just my concept. And that's where my focus is. Hey, I want to help you learn and live your best life. So I'm always doing market research. And when I saw that, I was like, hey, since you guys really like front end, in my experience, people don't learn well stuff they don't want to learn. How many people are bad at math, but what you realize is they weren't bad at math. You just had a teacher that was boring as all get out. So same concept. All right, so we're going to teach front-end development and we're going to teach it in a manner since, you guys are learning that, let's teach you guys something interesting and go from there. So that's how that unprecedented move happened, because most, if you go to a for-profit boot camp, they don't do that at all. There's no way on earth they would do that.
So I read up on your website trying to get information for talking to you guys, and I saw something that, not being a veteran or having been in the military, I don't know the concept. So what is this train how you fight concept?
Train how you fight is based around the idea of, train how you fight. Okay, I'm not going to, if you're, in the redcoats days when America was fighting the British, mm-hmm. right? They were lining up and, marching and stuff. That's how back in the day everybody fought. You lined up, you marched, and whoever had the most men at the end won. But what Americans did was we're just going to change this game. We're not going to do this. We're going to fight in the woods. We're going to blend in camouflage. Just a nice red jacket. We'll be ashamed if somebody added more red to it. And that's how. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be no, British the Brits are our allies. I love y'all. I serve y'all. Y'all cool. Just that's how this is it's before my time. So that's how you did it. So you train how you fight, and the concept of, hey, we're not going to just sit here and we're not going to talk about arrays, for loops and stuff. We're going to build things while we're talking about these things, and we're going to build them in real case scenarios. Ask me what a .map filter, a .map means, or what the fat arrow does in ES6. All right, I'm going to show you, and I'm going to show you why you're using this. This is for a function. It's better if you use it as a block. You can use it as a simple function out in the wild, but it's better if you use it. It just makes more sense to use it when it's within lexical scope, when it's in a function, so that way you can pull it in later, especially if it's just some simple data, and or how to chain .map, .filter, .reduce, all of these things that we focus on, how we our curriculum, first thing we do is we start a repo, and then we start making people, first thing they do, download the repo. Next thing you do, because we're teaching them how to use Git, right? So next thing you need to do, once you download the repo, you need to check out a branch. Mm-hmm. Now you're learning how to check branches out. You name this branch. This is your branch. This is your developed branch. Mm-hmm. From this point on, everything that you go in this is your developed branch before you merge it to master, right? All right, so you're going to build a thing, or you're doing a new portion of cohort. You need to make a like a cohort branch or a feature branch based upon what you're learning. So everything that you're working on right now goes in that feature branch. Once you get done, you merge it into develop. Then once you want to PR it into our master branch, then you'll ask for a code review and we'll look at it and we'll do that. Oh, now you learn code reviews, you learn Git flow, you're learning how to do features in a Kanban methodology, and you're doing that you're doing that over and over and over again. So by 14, 15, 16 weeks, like, oh yeah, I have real world experience in a style that, of working that people are doing on the outside.
Yeah.
It's totally different from, learning how to use GitHub, how to push stuff, and then that's it. Like, I didn't learn about checking out branches and Kanban and stuff till like 3 years ago, right? I'm like, so now that I know it, I am introducing everyone to it because that's part of my responsibility. So like that's what we say about training how you fight. Like, you don't see mixed martial artists going out there doing Taekwondo. They're out there doing like the stuff that works, right? So that's how we do. We train how we fight. If it doesn't work, we drop it.
I totally see why Zed Shaw got in with you guys, because I went through his Learn SQL the hard way, and that was very much the attitude. It was learn by doing. It's like, we're going to learn this concept, but the whole time you're going through the book, you're building something. And so I am behind that 100%. I really like that. That is awesome that you guys are doing it.
Well, that's how you had to learn in the 90s too. I mean, you would get a book and, it didn't show you everything, and you just kind of had to like hammer into stuff and then go to like Gopher or something and ask somebody, get a hold of somebody. I mean, it used to be a lot more goal oriented. It feels like the more academic types took over for a while, and now they're losing again.
Yeah. And that's another reason why we chose JavaScript. I call JavaScript the working man's language. Like a lot of creatives, a lot of people who don't have that pedigree of going to Stanford or going to a college, getting a CS degree, they have made their mark and made their stamp in JavaScript. And because of that, JavaScript is still a very strong learn by doing. And, going back to that whole fight analogy, a very, style makes fights type deal. Like we could do object-oriented programming in JavaScript, functional programming in JavaScript. We can learn about design architecture. Like Adi Asani, he has a book about architecture with JavaScript. Love it. We could do all these things, and we just focus on that language, and we can, have them build something. Like this week, I just finished my 4-week stint of teaching the veterans, right? So what we did is like this last week was like they used map, filter, reduce, but they also learn objects. And what I had them do was make a really insane object called you. And I was like, and in you have to put everything about yourself, everything about your life in you. And then you got to make smaller objects, things like this. And you're going to treat this object almost like you would treat a JSON or an API. Because when you go into the other parts, you're going to learn more about APIs and JSON objects, right? So, but right now, object is your API. Whenever you're building, you're going to pull things out of your object in order to build it. Like I made them redo their bios by pulling things out of their object. And then they learn how to, inject things in HTML. One young lady, Megan, she was a little more advanced than her. So I was like, and that's another thing, as Jacob has been a victim of. If I see you're too good at something, I'm going to just throw harder stuff at you. Like, you did really good there. You should do this. Awesome. Very funny. Like she did really good on her object. And I was like, oh, that's nice. So you did this really well. You should learn how to change your styling using JavaScript. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, change your styling in JavaScript. It's just like, all right, are you going to show me? No. Yeah. Change your style in JavaScript, research it. That's part of being a programmer, is you're going to have to learn how to research some things. And she was like, oh, okay. And then she took her a day and she found it and she was like, is this it? Yeah. Yes. And then she started applying it and then she was like, I did it. I was like, oh, that's nice. You should turn those two buttons into a toggle switch, though, for UI purposes. And she was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. She doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to make her take that toggle. And cause I told her you should add a dark mode to your website, right? Yeah. I'll make her take that logic and I'm going to have her work on our programmers on our product side. And she's going to be adding dark mode to our website. And she doesn't know that yet.
Everything should have a dark mode.
Yes, it should.
Yeah, see, yeah. Once she hears this, she'll be like, "Holy crap, he was like setting me up for something else." Like, yeah, and as Jacob tells you, like I do that all the time. Like, I'm the king of set you up, and you're like, "Yeah, what am I doing?" Oh,
Yeah,
that's really cool, student, I learned very quickly to be very careful about what questions I ask because of that. Because you'll get there. And it'll be like, well, if you're talking about dot mapping, what can I do with dot map or whatever? And he's like, hey, that's a good question. That's your homework this week. Do something with dot map and come back and tell us about it. Like, crap.
Beej will find that familiar.
Yeah. I got a lot of that. So let me ask
what
you,
I did to him.
Did you throw any erasers at people?
Oh no, because it's I was the homework. Like I was like when I said the homework king, I never threw an eraser. But I was just man.
Well, he's got to give it a little bit too because he gets it some. I know there's a running joke with Vetsu Code where some of his images that he has, we got stock photos and we just start putting his face on these stock photos and everything. Yeah. And just upload them and stuff, put them in Flash.
That's awesome.
They said that some of my headshots look like stock photos. And so they just started injecting, like, there was one night, I have no idea how this happened, where they just took the photos, they just started photoshopping me. Like, they photoshopped me in, like, a scene of Matrix. Like, I was dying. I was like, I know they did. They have, like, Captain America mug. Like, you guys don't know this, but I'm the biggest Captain America fan there is. Mm-hmm. I have a giant Captain America mug, and they were like, "Oh, that mug is almost as big as your head." And then somebody photoshopped like me peeking out of the Captain America mug. Like they took a headshot and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna make this like Veterans Coding Weekly." It was funny. I was like, "This is what happens when you get veterans." Internet. Yeah. Like I never want to do this again. But then I gave everybody homework, and I felt better about it.
So that sounds like programmers in general. There's one that's floating around my office where they photoshopped my head into a Amish baseball game. Like when I had the full beard,
he had a much larger beard and long hair. So.
Yes, it was legit.
So one of the things that here at Complete Developer and in the other things that we do that we're very passionate about is helping developers beyond just the technical skills. And we've gotten a lot of really great information about what you guys do on the technical side. But can you tell us a little bit about the ways that Vetsu Code help with the non-technical skills like interviewing, job placement, you may be working in a corporate or startup environment, stuff like that?
All right. Well, the first thing we do is that we assign every veteran a mentor. And I have one-on-ones that I do with veterans all the time, which sometimes backfires. Like, I think, Jacob, you've been a victim of it where you've been up like late at night coding, and then I see you, I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Let's do a one-on-one right now. Or let me see what you're working on. Like, things like that. Like, I'm very open and very transparent with them, and a lot of our mentors are as well, and that really helps. Like, we have 2 mentorship teams. One is for veterans going through the cohort, and one is after they get jobs. So we have our continuing education mentors and our mentors that are the mentors that aren't continuing education but are like developer mentors. They're very focused on JavaScript and getting that initial job. The continuing education veterans, they're like, oh, this is what you can do. This is what else you can do in the industry. These are the guys that they introduce you to DevOps. They introduce you to, more other languages, things like that. Like, I don't do that at all. I focus on getting you skilled up and getting you to those guys. One thing that we're doing as well right now is we're onboarding a new board member who he specializes literally in veteran transition and HR communications with like tech. He works at he works at Facebook, and that's what he does with veterans is he helps them transition into tech jobs. Like that is like, those are just some of the ways we do it. And we make introductions. Like there's no, especially, I had a veteran, Jeff Martin. He works at Microsoft. Like, I wish he was around. He would tell you guys. He was the first veteran that I was teaching that ever lived close to me. So we were able to go to like developer meetups and stuff. And one developer meetup where he was doing job stuff, I showed up. And mind you, he's in like a button up and nice pants and haircut and stuff. Show up in my uniform of the day, which is jeans, Converse, Captain America shield backpack, and a hoodie and hat. I ended up getting like 4 job offers that day. Like I just talking and we went and dealing. And I was like, "Hey, you're good. I'm already happy, but he needs a job." And he was like, this dude was throwing jobs my direction, just like people were trying to hire him, and he was like deflecting and putting the detail on me. Like that's just, I teach them like how to be comfortable talking, introducing them to people, force them to go meetups. Like meetups is like the only way you cannot come to class. Like we have a class, unless you're working or have something important to do, you have to do a meetup at least once a month. That's one of our rules when you're
very good.
Education and veteran. Like, hey, you have to deal with your community. The harsh reality is, people are people and they have to get to know you before, like, literally, I say people, like, no one has training when it comes to, even the top companies don't have perfect, training when it comes to like hiring people. They're trying to find someone smart who is passionate to learn that they can spend 8 hours a day with without murdering.
Yep.
Like that's the name of the game. So what you need to do is be that person who is smart, who is passionate, who likes solving problems and can be around 8 hours a day without being murdered. That's your only thing. That's like, we're setting the bar very low here. Like, just be smart and not be unkillable. Just to be, hey, I don't want to kill you. Like, that's what you want to be. Like, that's it. Like I said, we treat it like you would treat a boxing gym. Like, this is a spot of sparring. So everybody's transparent. Everybody's like the mentors. Everybody's talking about the mistakes they've made and the bumps they've gotten and things like that. Because we know that the more we share our failures internally, once it comes to external, you're not going to have that problem. Like setting that trend of being JavaScript focused, being junior and entry-level engineer focused, being like, being transparent, treating this like a boxing gym where we don't talk about the bad things that people did. Like we're all a team and one of us isn't doing well. None of us are doing well. Doesn't matter. And just being, the best we can on that. And then helps us create a polished, product, which is a veteran that knows, what the hell they're talking about. And like, that's what we focus on.
Very cool.
Which goes back to the train how you fight type thing. Nice.
So who all can participate in the program? I mean, is it restricted to only U.S. military veterans or... Because, I mean, like, I know people are going to be hearing what you're saying on here and they're going to be like, crap, I want to do that.
It is restricted only to U.S. veterans, but they do not have to be in country. One of the veterans that I was talking about, the one that became a senior software engineer at Verizon, he was originally in Finland, and we started training him while he was in Finland as he's making his journey all the way back to America. And it's like, this is super crazy. Like, that's what we focus on, is highly trained. What we look for through Vets Who Code veterans is willing to do the work. Like, that's the secret sauce. I'm a firm believer, and we've proven it quite a few times. You can literally turn, Jacob's a prime example. You can turn the absolute worst programmer into a skilled developer and make them good if they're willing to put in the work, they're willing to put in the hours. So our biggest caveat, our biggest wall they have to do is they have to do the pre-work to even get an interview. We open ourselves up to military spouses because I understand that the tech isn't just a boys club. However, the problem with being in the military is that it is a majority of boys club right now. So that's one of the reasons why we try to look for military spouses, particularly, women, because we want to make sure that, we're open to everybody. If you're willing, if you, serve and you're making a sacrifice, because military spouses make a sacrifice too, because, they would like to stay home instead of getting moved every 4 years as well. Especially military bases are on the worst real estate. So it's not like you're moving to Malibu. You're moving to 29 palms. So there are no palm trees in 29 palms. So I don't let you guys know that. 29 palms has 0 palms. So we try to, we're always looking for that. Like every time we get our process is you apply, then we get you in a Facebook group. Eddie handles the pre-work. We try to get you motivated and get you guys to finish. And then hopefully, if you finish, you get an interview with me. I'm very, I handle one part of the interview, and I'm just trying to see, do code, do interpersonal smells. Are you going to do the work? I set the tone, let you know that everybody that you deal with, that is an alumni, is a mentor, or is a director of another, or is a team lead of another team, is a proxy of me. So when you're talking to them, you're essentially talking to me. So treat them the same respect you would treat me. I try to, I handle it, like I said, very community, because once you become a grad, I treat you like an equal. Once you're a grad, I expect you to be equal. I expect you to contribute. I expect you to be, be more one team, one fight mentality. My job is to get you to the level I am, and then for us to work together as a unit, right? That's how I view it. So after that, we have another person who he's kind of like the trap. He does more technical stuff, but he's a civilian. So I want to see how you interact with people who you feel like may not understand our journey, right? So, that's it's a not so veiled trick, but that's, just how I'm doing. I'm trying to make sure that you respect everybody, because some of our most helpful mentors are civilians. Some of our most hands-on board members are civilians. This is an organization where, I've watched Kyle Shevlin, who he's at Webflow, jump in and help a veteran with a JavaScript problem. And I've watched Brian Holt, who is at Microsoft, and he was at Netflix, and he was at Reddit, come in and talk and work through something with the veteran. And there's nowhere else on the internet where these type of JavaScript rock stars are coming down to, literally talk and interact with you and write code with you. And you have 6-7 weeks of experience. You can't replicate that.
That's huge.
It's really awesome that you guys work with people like that. So Jerome, Jacob, thanks for taking the time to talk with us about what you do. If people wanted to get in touch with you to participate, volunteer, or donate, or maybe if they just have some questions, how could they get in touch with you and find out more about the program?
For me, I am at Jerome Hardaway on Twitter. There's the @VetsuCode Twitter account as well, and VetsuCode.io for all the volunteering stuff. We are always looking for mentors. If you have 2 years, if you have 2 years of employment in JavaScript, you definitely qualify for our mentorship team. For those who are not on the JavaScript mentorship track, we are looking for at least 5 years of web development experience. If you're going to be talking about Java, Go, DevOps, anything like that, architecture, any of that stuff, we ask for at least 5 years of experience as a professional programmer. But those are the two biggest ways that you can come in and give back.
So guys, whether you're a veteran who works in IT or is just getting started, or even if you haven't served in the military, there are a lot of ways to get involved. VetsuCode is one way of giving back to the community. We encourage you to go out and find ways that you're able to help out. That pretty much wraps us up before we close everything out. Will, what do you have for us this week for Tricks of the Trade?
Well, I just want to reiterate the thing that was kind of the underlying theme of this whole deal. It's the train how you fight stuff. If you're building real code, you will learn so much more than you'll learn in a book, so much quicker, because it's not just that you learn, but you learn how to go and find information, how to look through crappy Linux documentation to figure out command line switches and crap like that you would never ever encounter in a training course. And so always try to be setting yourself up so that you pressure test yourself with real world scenarios, and you'll grow so much faster. And that's all I got.
Stand by for Titanfall.
If you have a question or comment, please email us at neckbeards@completedeveloperpodcast.com. Our theme music is an excerpt from Stand By for Titanfall by Pure Bells, available on SoundCloud and licensed through Creative Commons.
The intro music for IoTs is Hillbilly Hip Hop by Jason Belcher. For references, show notes, and to sign up for weekly emails with extra tips and insights, be sure to check out the website at CompleteDeveloperPodcast.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at CompleteDevPod and like our page on Facebook to keep up with news about the show. Catch us each week as we broadcast live, talking about what's going on in the tech world and answering listener questions.
Learn more about all of our shows and groups by going to CompleteDeveloperNetwork.com, where you'll find links to Junior Developer Toolbox, Developer Launchpad, and our other communities. Thanks for listening. See you next time.